And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Bavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, it is now time for our fourth annual All Gas No Break Sports Show NFL mock draft show here tonight. This upcoming Thursday, the NFL draft will take place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Should be a very interesting NFL draft to say the least. I will say it doesn't feel as hyped going into this year only because, not a lot of quarterbacks are going into this draft. It looks like maybe at least one quarterback, maybe a second quarterback could enter the first round of the NFL draft. So maybe there's not as much juice to this draft, but there's still a lot of intrigue going into this draft because there's a lot of still strong, versatile, skilled players on both the offensive and defensive side. And our job here tonight for you and I is we're going to put our GM caps on for the 32 teams, technically 32 teams in the NFL world. But keep in mind, some of those teams have traded their first round picks to other organizations. So there'll be a couple of teams tonight that you and I will be making double picks for in this draft. But I'm looking forward to it. While we also keep in mind, too, we'll be breaking down what these teams did in the offseason, what their team needs are going into this draft, and who you and I will be picking for this upcoming Thursday.
Yeah, it's missing the big name quarterbacks, Nick, but there's a lot of great players here, to
Yes.
say the least. You have a lot of guys like Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs, which would probably be number one overall picks in other drafts, being slotted to somewhere in the top five. So it's going to be really interesting to see where these teams go because you have great offensive linemen, you have a quarterback that is nothing against Mendoza, but he's the weakest Heisman probably of the last 15, 20 years. And that's just a It's not really a knock on him. Just
Maybe.
says the field wasn't that enticing this year.
Yeah,
And the other
I
quarterbacks in
can
this
understand
draft,
that.
it's him and a bunch of who's the next guy that's going to be drafted. That's the question. So
Well, there is a potential that a second quarterback does get taken in the first round. There is chatter that that could happen. And I think the only way that does happen is what happened last season in the NFL draft, where the Giants traded up into the first round to get a second first round pick to take Jackson Dart. I get the sense that's probably going to happen again in this draft because there's going to be a couple teams of these at the beginning of the second round. They're going to be looking at maybe getting a quarterback, which it more likely is going to be Ty Simpson from Alabama. So maybe you see him at some point get drafted in the first round because you want to get that illustrious fifth year option so that you have the opportunity to extend your first round picks, contract at the end of the day. So that'd be something to note. I also do want to note too, also for this mock draft, you and I usually bring this up, but we will not maybe implementing trades for this mock draft. The team that has the pick, we're going to keep the pick and make the pick for that team. But to be expected, there will be trades on Thursday from some of the NFL teams that will be trying to, try to build up their roster and try to make sure that they could get to the Super Bowl this upcoming February. But I think, Johnson, let's start it off with the Las Vegas Raiders. You'll be picking for the odd number teams in this draft. So why don't you tell us what the Raiders did in the offseason and who do you have going number one?
yeah, they had a busy offseason, most notably signing Tyler Linderbaum, winning that sweepstakes because they had probably the worst O line in football last year. So they get a quality center, probably the best center on the market right now, and it's really going to help out their backfield, and it's going to put pressure off their new quarterback. Who's that new quarterback? Well, they re-signed Kirk Cousins, but are you going to have Kirk Cousins as your QB1? I don't know. They also re-signed Kobe Dean and Quay Walker. But going into this mock draft, Nick, uh, the question for the Raiders is: do you trust Kirk Cousins?
If you're asking me, I think the consensus is that even if they take Fernando Mendoza, which is what I'm assuming you're going to do with this pick, is that they more than likely will sit Mendoza for either the entirety of the season or for a portion of the season and let him get, some reps in practice before they throw him into the fire because you don't want to immediately throw him into the fire and then God forbid he doesn't look good and then you have a potential bust on your hands. So
Which
I
is
think that
exactly what a good franchise would do, Nick. So, with that being said, with the number one overall pick, the Raiders are going to take Mendoza. They're going to sit him for a
okay.
year, and they're going to let him learn behind a pro quarterback. This is a guy who really has punched above his weight class. If you take a look at Kirk Cousins, if you take a look at him where he was at 10 years ago, and instead of, oh, this guy is the highest earner in NFL history, they would have looked like you're crazy. But Kirk Cousins really had an underrated career, and he's going to look to maybe just pad his stats a little bit over here for the Raiders. Maybe he can get another 3,000 yards, maybe another 25 touchdowns. And if that's so, he's just adding to his longevity case here. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, one of the biggest what ifs in NFL history, and maybe just maybe, if he can mentor Mendoza, he'll be kind of remembered fondly. We'll find out.
Well, I will say for you, that's probably the consensus pick in this draft because I feel like after the number one pick, there's a lot of uncertainty at what happens the rest of this draft. Mendoza is the only clear cut, that's going to happen this upcoming Thursday. Everything else is a wait and see game at this rate. But yeah, I think the smart play is take Mendoza, wait a year or wait a couple games in the season, maybe midway through the season. They say, let's give Mendoza a shot and see what we have in him. But that's why you signed Kirk Cousins. And you mentioned it, his agent just does wonders these last couple of off seasons. It's incredible what he's been able to do the last few
And
seasons.
the craziest thing is, Nick, Kirk Cousins only had 9 seasons where he played 14 or more games, but he's still at 45,000 yards and 300 passing touchdowns.
Yeah,
That's crazy when you think about it. And I know he's been in the NFL now for 14 years, but he's only been had 9 seasons as a starter where he's been healthy. Let's say those 9 years, and put up numbers. So if he's healthy, I'm not gonna say sleeper playoff team, but sleeper team to win 7 games.
could be. Yeah, the Raiders, of course, with an abysmal season last year, trying to fix that
And
this
that's
upcoming
what you
season.
want coming out of the worst possible year. You want momentum. That's what you want. You're not looking for a playoff appearance. You're looking for momentum going into next season. So let's see what they can do.
And then moving on to this number two overall pick, and of course, with Mendoza now off the board, there really is no quarterback you can take this early, not even remotely close. The New York Jets have the number two overall pick in this upcoming draft. Some of the things that they did in this offseason, they gave Brees Hall the franchise tag, so they have another year of him at helm. Will they trade him? Who knows? They did bring back a couple of interesting faces, including one quarterback, Geno Smith, who was just on the Raiders this past season. So it looks like Geno Smith is going to be the Jets quarterback at least for this season. You tend to think they'll probably be in the quarterback market next year in the NFL draft. They also got Minka Fitzpatrick in a trade with the Miami Dolphins, Tavondre Sweat in a trade with the Tennessee Titans, and they brought back another familiar face, linebacker Demario Davis from the New Orleans Saints, who started his career as a New York Jet. The Jets' needs going into this draft are quarterback, edge, wide receiver, corner, and offensive line. So without a quarterback to take, it really is between two players, in my opinion, Johnson, at this pick. And it's been the two players that have been really rumored to be a pick for the Jets here at this spot. Arvell Reese or David Bailey. Arvell Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State. David Bailey, the defensive end from Texas Tech. And it's one where I don't think you really, necessarily can go wrong with either side. To me, I feel like if I had to pick between the two, and I'm not sure if the Jets will go with him at number two, but I feel like Arvell Reese is the better player out of the two players at this spot. I just think that he can play both linebacker, type of outside edge, which also could give them a pass rusher, which the Jets desperately need right now at that position. David Bailey is another strong defensive edge type of player for them, but I think Reese, at the end of the day, if not for Mendoza being the number one pick and being a quarterback, Reese could be in other years, maybe without a top quarterback in the draft, could be a potential number one overall pick. So I'll go Arvell Reese number two to the New York Jets.
All right, Nick. So we got our first 2 picks off the board: Mendoza to the Raiders and Reese to the Jets. So that is interesting to say the least. And that's going to bring us now to the number 3 team, which are, well, they are the Arizona Cardinals. And the
Oof.
Cardinals have had they've had an off season to say the least.
Yeah, off season say something. If you need help with the pronunciations, just I can help you. Worst case, also.
I mean, I know they have Isaac Salimalu, they have
Ciamalo. Yeah.
the offensive lineman, they have Tyler Algier as their running back, and I don't know if he's going to be starting, but they've had a lot of decimation in that backfield, so I don't know what's going to happen there. They're trying to move on from Kyler Murray. They're trying to, but We're gonna see what happens because guess who's gonna be run the show here, Nick?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be Gardner Minshew or not. Jacoby Brissett also there, but I know they did sign Minshew Mania this
We
past
love
offseason.
some Minshew mania here. He's been a fan favorite backup the last couple of years, most recently on the Chiefs. He really hasn't had a fair shot here. I mean, he's had a chance where he's been able to start, but like he's never been seen as the guy, right? Is that fair to
Yeah, had that
say?
flash in Jacksonville, and then the Trevor Lawrence draft came up, so that pretty much ended his tenure there.
Yeah, and then he was okay in Indy for 1 year. Like he didn't light the world on fire, but he was solid. But they also re-signed, or I should say they signed Kendrick Bourne. I mentioned Kendrick Bourne, right?
Believe so, yeah.
Kendrick Bourne, Patriots legend, forever a
Had
Patriot.
some flashes last year with the Niners.
Yeah, listen, I'm a big Kendrick Bourne guy, and they really need a quarterback. But there's no quarterbacks. You're not taking Ty Simpson here unless you're crazy. And then you take a look. They need a tackle. They need D line. They need a linebacker. I think that one of the consensus number 3 overall pick in this draft is probably Jeremiah Love. However,
Hmm.
I don't think they're going to take him.
Oh, okay.
I think they're going to take Francis Mauigoa here out of Miami.
Oh, okay.
They're going to try to get that O line, and if I'm a Cardinals fan, this is the guy I want. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
listen,
have
I
been
think he'd be
enamored with him
great.
for over a year now.
I've been saying, listen, I was saying this when he was a second round pick. I said this is the best tackle in the draft. And even though he has those health problems, uh, he may not be a tackle. He's going to be the best offensive lineman in the draft, and they need an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So 6'6", 330 pounds. They don't grow on trees. Take them. I think it's a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
I think the Cardinals are in that weird spot where they could take Maui Noah. They could take the outs, whoever doesn't go between Reese and Bailey at 3. They could take Jeremiah Love. They could take a Sonny Styles or a Ruben Bain. They're rumored for so many different players at that third
Ruben Bain
overall.
is the one that scares me
Yeah,
because of
Ruben
the
Bain
allegations.
has had some off the field issues, but there's also issues with his motor ability too as a pass rusher, which is also a little bit of a concern. He might be one of those guys that maybe falls into the mid teens in this draft. We'll see if that happens in our mock draft, but yeah, the Cardinals can go from any of these different variations in this upcoming draft. I mean, for, Jeremiah Love wasn't even rumored to go to the Cardinals until this upcoming morning, and now that's a rumor that's heating up. But Maui Noah for a while was the rumored pick for Arizona at this spot, so that very well could still be the case. You talked about it. You still have Jacoby Brissett, who's going to at least be there for one more year. If you have Maui Noah and then you draft your franchise quarterback next year, then you at least have two strong tackles. You have Maui Noah on one side, and you also have Paris Johnson Jr. on the other side, who's been a pretty solid tackle
That could be
for
your 1-2
Arizona.
for the next 10 years. It
Right.
really could be.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily
And
hate
listen,
that
he's a
for
West
Arizona.
Coast guy too. I know he's originally from Samoa, but he moved over to the West Coast. So Arizona, it's right in that wheelhouse. He'll love the weather, and as long as the franchise treats him right, Maui Noah is going to stay there for a long, long time, assuming he goes there.
We'll see if that is indeed the case on Thursday night. Then we move on to the number 4 pick, the Tennessee Titans, who, of course, with Cam Ward at the helm, they do have a little bit of a future at quarterback. We'll see if he can take that next big step next season. They do have a new coaching staff as well, and they brought in a lot of big players in this past offseason. They signed Wan'Dale Robinson from the New York Giants, former New York Jet John Franklin Myers, former Giant Cordell Flott. They signed Alante Taylor from the New Orleans Saints. They acquired Jermaine Johnson in a trade with the New York Jets. And of course, a lot of these moves were made after they hired, Robert Saleh as their new head coach. They also hired Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator, who was trying to get Cam Ward to be a Giant last NFL draft, and now he gets a chance as the OC in Tennessee this year. The team needs for the Titans going into this draft are offensive line, defensive end, wide receiver, running back, and linebacker. And Johnson, I feel like at this point, you hire Saleh, of course, the defensive guy. They've done a lot of moves in the offseason defensively, and they necessarily could keep that trend going with the style of going straight defense. But my issue I'm having with Tennessee is that do they have that playmaker on the offensive side of the ball right now when you look at that team? You saw flashes from Eli Ayamire last season for them at wide receiver. They have, they have a fine running back at Tony Pollard, but how much longer do you have in Tony Pollard going into the next couple of years? As Tajay Spears, I mean, just has not really worked out in the grand scheme of things. I think this is the spot where Jeremiah Love goes. I'm going to go Jeremiah Love at number 4. I
Wow,
think you just need
Jeremiah Love, number 4. There he goes.
I think you just need a game changing type of running back that's going to be, if you want to help Cam Ward get a lot of the weight off of his shoulders, I think that's the guy you take. You take the guy that could be a game changer for your entire offense. So I got Jeremiah Love going to Tennessee this upcoming Thursday.
So this is gonna sound crazy, Nick, because I got the number 5 pick, and it's your New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I put in my fate in the Giants and you.
Yeah, well, all right, I'm just kidding. So you guys, listen, you did some work this offseason.
We did.
You got Isaiah Likely. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
You got Darnell Mooney. You got Tremaine Edmonds. You got Patrick Ricard. You got a bunch of guys. You re-signed Jermaine. Say it again.
Jermaine Illuminor. That's you were pretty sure you referred to. Yep.
Yeah, you re-signed your offensive line here, and this is where I would have loved Maui Noah. However, I don't think he's going to fall to you guys.
That's fair.
You need O-line. Now you need D-line because Dexter Lawrence is gone because he got traded over to the Bengals. You need a wide receiver, but I don't think you're going to take him here. I don't think you take Carnell Tate here.
Yeah,
could be there at 10 for you. That's going to be your fate.
Maybe.
You need a cornerback, and that leads me to the last one. You need a linebacker. And who's the top linebacker in the draft, Nick?
I believe that would be one Sonny Styles.
Sonny Styles will be the next New York Football Giant, pick number 5.
Okay.
And you know what? If Jeremiah Love is there at 5 in real life, you better pray to God they take him still. Because you do not want him at 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't be.
I'm not saying he's bad.
Jeremiah, yeah. I wouldn't be upset.
But you need a lot more than running back. Running back is a guy who's one of the last things you get.
Right, because you're going to have Cam Scatterbo coming back from that injury, but it's still a big injury that he's coming back from. So you can't necessarily be certain that he's going to be 100% when he comes back. But there's a lot more needs on this team. You mentioned the trade with Dexter Lawrence. They need to fix that interior D-line, but there's nobody that's remotely close to being a top 5 pick. They're going to have to wait till the second round to get someone like that. And the wide receivers, I feel like, are at a weird spot where you could maybe take one this early, but there's just so many good defensive players at the top of the board where I don't think it's as necessary to do so. So I think Sonny Styles makes most sense at that spot for the Giants. Just get a guy that immediately will come in and will help in a position that the Giants have needed for years and years now. And he's a guy that's a former safety too, so he could also, if desperately needed someone to move back as well, he could play a little bit of box safety too. But I think it works for New York. I don't hate that pick. Sonny Styles go number 5, and I at least have a chance to pick number 10 for the Giants upcoming in the next couple of picks after that Dexter Lawrence trade that you mentioned. The next team that we have is the Cleveland Browns, the other Ohio team. The Browns going in this past offseason, they acquired Titus Howard, the offensive tackle, in a trade with the Houston Texans. They signed Zion Johnson, the former offensive lineman with the Los Angeles Chargers. Signed Elton Jenkins from the Green Bay Packers. Quincy Williams for the New York Jets. Team needs quarterback, O-line, wide receiver, cornerback, and defensive end. Of course, we'll see who's his quarterback this year, if it's Shedeur or Deshaun Watson or Dylan Gabriel, I guess. I don't know what they're going to be doing. At that point, probably should go Shedeur, just see what you have with him at this point in time. They've gotten a lot of bit of offensive line help, so I don't think they go there at this spot. I know you were just saying that maybe a receiver doesn't go at 5, but I think Cleveland's going to stay in state with the 6th overall pick. I'm going to go Carnell Tate number 6. I think right now the Browns are in a spot where they don't really have a lot of wide receiver depth at this point. Jerry Jeudy was a hyped up receiver going into last season, and it just was an abysmal season for him there. Their best offensive threat was Harold Fannin, their rookie tight end last year. So I think right now the Browns, they need a wide receiver depth. They don't really have strong receivers in that realm. So why not stay in state and pick up an Ohio State kid in Carnell Tate to go at number 6?
And that's going to leave us to the Washington Commanders at number 7. They got some guys I like in Leo Chanel. I'm a big fan of him. They got Rashad White, Clavon Chasson. They got who else? They got Nick Cross, Odefe Owe, and who else am I missing, Nick? That's about it.
Chigakonkwo, the tight end from the Titans as well.
Of course. And they're looking for wide receivers, which you just stole from them. Defensive back, edge rushers, offensive line, running back. You know who has Washington Commander written all over them?
I don't know.
Ruben Bain Jr. Even though he has the
okay.
problems, I feel like they're willing to swing on him.
I could see that. Yeah,
I think they're willing to. This is a guy that probably, without the problems, would be a consensus top 5 pick, and I think that it's either him or David Bailey out of Texas Tech. So I think they're going to swing on him.
Pick one of them, right? Yeah, I think if both of them are there for the Commanders, as much as they would like to maybe get the next best receiver on that board, I don't see why you wouldn't just take one of those guys. You could maybe think about Caleb Downs in that spot also, but with 2 big pass rushers there, I mean, Washington could definitely use a pass rusher right now at this current point in time. So, yeah, I don't hate that spot for Ruben Bain. I think that's a really strong spot for him to go to. I was thinking about him here at number 8 with the next pick, which is the New Orleans Saints, who it looks like maybe they found their franchise quarterback this past season, Johnson, and Tyler Shuck, who obviously surprised a lot of people, including myself. I didn't think he was going to be really able to, succeed the way he did last year in his rookie year. But Shuck had a pretty strong rookie season. In the past offseason, they brought in Travis Etienne Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They signed linebacker Caden Ellis, offensive lineman Dylan Edwards. So a little bit of some moves for the Saints this past offseason, with their team needs in the draft being wide receiver, defensive end, corner, D-line, and O-line. I would have gone with a wide receiver initially at this point, Johnson, but with David Bailey still on the board, I just think it makes too much sense for them not to take him. So I'll go David Bailey at number 8.
There we go.
Yeah, just think that a guy that could be maybe the number 2 pick in the draft, for him to be at 8, I think the Saints, it's at the point where do you take the team need that you maybe want to take in wide receiver and try to help your young quarterback, or do you just take the best player available, which is going to potentially help your defense for the next, you hope, 10 years? So I think David Bailey is the consensus here at number 8 for New Orleans.
And that leads us to this is right, Nick. The Kansas City Chiefs pick at number 9.
Yeah, crazy to think that this is the world we live in.
Yeah, what a world we do live in. Travis Kelce coming back on a 3-year deal that I think has opt-out clauses after each year, which is crazy because this guy is beyond washed at this point. Just please retire. They got a future quarterback or an insurance option in Justin Fields, which I imagine they'll use him on some gadget plays and stuff like that. Could
maybe start the year if Patrick Mahomes is not back from his injury.
And the biggest of all this news is getting an actual running back in Kenneth Walker, which I hate because it's a really great move and it's probably going to push him into contending stats again, despite Travis Kelce being on the decline, despite not having consistent receivers. But now you have a top 5 running back in the NFL, as long as he's healthy, of course.
Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. And they need wide receiver, obviously. They need edge rusher. They need both lines, offensive and defensive, and they need a cornerback. So there's a couple options here, and I'm not really so sure where we're gonna go here because I don't really need Caleb Downs here. He'd be the best player, but I think Caleb Downs is going to fall, and we're gonna go down to Louisiana for a cornerback, Nick.
Do tell. I think I know who you're talking about, though.
So I think they're going to take Mansour Delane.
Yep.
And it makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Even though Caleb Downs, I think, is the best player in that backfield, or in the just in this draft
Yeah,
in the
Caleb
backfield in
Downs
this
is a
draft.
consensus top 5 pick, but there's
He's
a chance
fallen.
he falls because of how many of the needs are for some of these other teams.
Yeah, like this is the first real like strong cornerback need, or I guess even or safety. But there's another team that needs safety, which is right on the clock, Nick. So how convenient.
Yeah, you put me in a tough spot here with the New York Giants at number 10 because Caleb Downs has fallen. The problem is that they're rumored and tied to Jordan Tyson right now, the wide receiver from Arizona State. So I don't necessarily know what they would do. I think the problem is the Giants right now have a really big need at safety that I feel like is tough. And also, by the way, for your Chiefs pick, that makes also sense because they traded Trent McDuffie to the Rams this past offseason. So they really do need a corner in that corner room. But back to the Giants pick at number 10. I think it's between Downs and Tyson. Do the Giants go double Buckeyes in this draft? Man, it's tough. I'm gonna go Caleb Downs, but not. I'm not. And again, I don't want to make this sound like I'm upset by taking Caleb Downs. I would love for the Giants to take him at number 10. I feel like if he's there, they take him. If he's not there, it's going to be Jordan Tyson at number 10 for the Giants. It just seems like that is now becoming a big time rumor. They obviously need a number 2 wide receiver outside of Malik Neighbors because you can't really have it be Darius Slayton. They might bring back Odell Beckham Jr. too. Who knows what's going to happen in the next couple of days? But um, I'll go with Caleb Downs. They've needed safety for a little bit of time. Tyler Nubin, the experience has been iffy. They haven't really had anyone replace Xavier McKinney, so maybe it's going to be Caleb Downs upcoming Thursday. So I'll have the Giants go double Buckeyes. Sonny Styles you took at number 5. Caleb Downs at pick number 10. Let's move on to pick number 11.
All right, Nick. So that's Caleb Downs officially as
Yes,
a New York Football Giant.
yes.
So how's it feel, Nick?
To take
You
two
got Caleb
Buckeyes.
Downs. Yeah, two Buckeyes.
Yeah, I'm
They're,
not a
they're
fan of
solid
that.
players.
Not a fan of that school, but they're two solid players. And listen, the Giants defense still needs some help. They were really struggling last year against the run. I think those two guys can easily help the run, and then they might sign DJ Reader after the NFL draft, which could help replace Dexter Lawrence. So the only concern right now is going to be where they're going to find the receiver help. Is it good? Are you going to get something out of Odell Beckham this late in his career? Probably not. But I just don't know if they could pass on Caleb Downs in this spot if he's still here at number 10. That's the issue I'm having.
And that leads us to number 11, the Miami Dolphins.
Another team
They've
you
su-
like.
Yeah, listen, Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert. They
You
got
started
Billy
quarterback.
Wells. Yeah, what do you mean? They're gonna start they're
Tua's,
starting
Tua's not
oh
there.
no, not Tua. Jeez, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name. It's off the top of my head.
It's the Texas guy.
Yeah.
Quinn
Jeez.
Ewers. Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers, thank
Quinn
you.
Ewers, yes.
That's embarrassing. I've been
Yeah, I know.
selling this guy all year.
You've been trying to sell that Undertaker Quinn Ewers car for years now.
What do you mean? Anyways,
Sorry.
listen, they need wide receivers, obviously, cornerbacks,
Yeah.
edge rushers, O line, safeties, and I guess Dylan Feineman right now out of Oregon is the top pick for them. So
That's where you go, Dylan Thieneman.
that's where I'm going. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think this is interesting because the Dolphins could go receiver because they obviously cut Tyreek Hill. They traded Jalen Waddle. And I told you this weeks ago, I don't know if I can name a receiver right now on this team outside of you just mentioning Tutu Atwell right there and Jalen Tolbert. It is a really bad wide receiver room the Dolphins have this coming season.
Yeah,
They
and
might be picking number 1 in the draft next year.
Listen, they could take Jordan Tyson here if they want, but that might be a reach.
The thing is with him is that he's also coming off an injury. Keep in mind too, but there's a lot of teams enamored with him. I mentioned the Giants being enamored with him, but Thieneman's not a bad pick. I think Thieneman's a player that could go from anywhere from this spot with Miami to maybe the Vikings at 18. He could fall at any pick in this draft, the next couple picks. Even the Cowboys, who are picking up next, would love to have a guy like Thieneman, but with him now off the board, we'll have to see what they do here. So I'll bring up what the Cowboys have done in the offseason. They gave Jordan Pickens a franchise tag, so still trying to extend him, but as of now, they gave him the franchise tag there. They re-signed Javonte Williams. They acquired Rashawn Gary in a trade with the Packers. They signed safety Jalen Thompson from the Cardinals. Also re signed Brandon Aubrey earlier today as well. Team needs are defensive end, linebacker, corner, defensive line, and offensive line. So, looking at the board, obviously it's going to be a defensive pick for Dallas at this point. Mansour Delaney's off the board. You just saw Thieneman and Caleb Downs go back to back. So this is really, unfortunate for Dallas, it's been a horrific draft with the way the last 5 picks have gone for them. I think the best case scenario now is they probably just go corner, and I think they go Jermon McCoy out of Tennessee. I think you just have to get whatever is left for your slim pickings at this point, and it's not a bad pick at 12, but considering what's come off the board the last 5 picks, the run on defense will continue, and I think that's where Dallas goes at 12. If this indeed happens on Thursday, and that run on defense does happen.
That's going to bring us to the next pick, to number 13 for the Rams. Lucky number 13. And the Rams,
keep in mind, Johnson, I want to point, I did give you a spreadsheet for some of the offseason moves. I did put what the Rams did in the offseason later on in the draft. If you want to pick number 29, I have their additions in the draft. At that point, I have the Falcons additions at this point in the draft, because this was originally the Falcons draft pick from last season when they traded their first round pick for James Pierce. To try
Thank you for that, Nick.
That one. Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the Rams at this point. So, what do you think the best option is here for the Rams? Because I'm looking at, right, because they took Trent McDuffie, right? They got him in a trade. They got Cameron Curl, and they signed Jalen Watson. So to me, their backfield is the secondary. It's done.
Yes. If I had to guess, and this is where I think it's going to happen, I won't lean you towards one way.
I already have my pick. It's been locked in ever since he fell over here.
Oh, so that's perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Spencer Fano here because they need offensive line.
Okay.
And this, to me, is the second best offensive lineman in the draft. Again, this is another fringe top 5 pick over here that's fallen right into the Rams right here. Sean McVay's going to get his hands on him. Native of Spanish Fork, Utah, going to go a little bit west for him, but he's probably going to have tons of friends and family be able to come over to LA for games. It's not like he's going across the country, so this is a very good landing spot for him.
Yeah, I think the Rams are either going to go with Fano at that pick, or they're going to take a receiver at that pick. I think it comes down to, what do you do with that spot? Because the Rams are seeing that as a Super Bowl contender. The only reason they're picking at 13 is because of the Falcons just not having a good season once again. The Falcons, of course, in the offseason, they obviously, the James Pierce situation aside, which has been a disaster for them right now going. They signed Tua, who might be their starting quarterback next year. Kyle Pitts is back. They got Sidney Brown back, but or I should say they got him to trade with the Eagles. But the Rams, I think this makes a lot of sense. You get another tackle, which they currently need right now at this point. I don't think you can go wrong with either getting him or getting one of the 2 other receivers, being Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson at this point.
And by the way, for those on the East Coast, the distance between Spanish Fork, Utah, and LA is about 9 hours driving. For us on the East Coast, that's equivalent from us going to New York to Detroit. So it's far, but it's like, oh, that's doable. Like if you had to get to Detroit in a day, you could do it.
So we'll see if File does go there at 13. At pick 14, we have the Baltimore Ravens, a very, very wild offseason they had. At one point, they traded for Max Crosby. They then untraded for Max Crosby. This pick was going to be the Raiders' pick at one point, but that one fell through. So the Ravens still have their pick. They do sign Trey Hendrickson as a backup option to Max Crosby. The big-time pass rusher from the Bengals is staying in the division, now going to Baltimore. They bring back offensive lineman John Simpson after a stint with the Jets. And, of course, they re-signed Tyler Huntley. Might as well Johnson, the former Pro Bowl quarterback for Lamar Jackson as a backup. Their team needs offensive line, defensive end, wide receiver, defensive line, and tight end. I am very curious where they go at this point. And I think for me, looking at it right now, of course they signed Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator from the Chargers this past offseason as their new head coach after replacing John Harbaugh. And it would make sense for them maybe to go defense at this spot. But I think because of there being a couple of offensive linemen at this rate, the guy I'm going to go with is probably the best interior offensive lineman on the board right now. That's Vega Oyana. I think I pronounced that correct, at least I hope.
Yes, you
From
did.
Penn
I,
State.
I was I, I was thinking about he's my next pick. So
Yeah, sorry, but I think that just makes too much sense for Baltimore. They need a physical. They're playing a physical style offense right now, more than likely on the ground game with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson still there. So I think they go interior offensive line at pick 14.
okay, we're almost halfway through this draft, Nick, and that leads us to pick number 15, where we're going to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has
Mm.
had a uh decent offseason.
Yeah, it's all right.
They got
Offseason.
Alex Anzalone, they re-signed Kate Otten, and they re-signed Kenneth Gainwell. So nothing much going on there. They still have their wideouts. They need edge rushers, D line, quarterbacks, O line, linebackers, and
Maybe a tight end.
I'm gonna go with Kenyon Sadiq over here
Yeah,
out of
I like
Oregon
that pick. I like that.
because they do need a tight end on paper because they're pretty solid.
I like that a lot because with Zach Robinson coming in at the helm, they have a new offensive coordinator, and he likes to run two tight end sets. So Auden and Sadiq, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch if you have it.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of this.
And he had a monster season last year with Dante Moore, of course, at quarterback for him. Then Johnson gets us back to the New York Jets at pick number 16, their second first round pick of the draft. And if I'm a Jets fan, I think this has gone tremendously for you because you got your pass rusher earlier on in Arvell Reese. You got two receivers that could have gone in the top 10 earlier on in this draft, and they're still here for you at pick number 16. I'm going Jordan Tyson. If he's here at 16, the Jets have to take one of these two guys. I think Tyson I prefer over Micaiah Lemon at this point. So I'll go Jordan Tyson, pick number 16 to the New York Jets. This, of course, was
And there
the
he
Sauce
goes.
Gardner. Of course, this was the Sauce Gardner trade that the Colts made, where they, traded for Sauce Gardner. They gave up 2 first round picks. The Colts only moves they made in the offseason were getting back Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, but they'll have to watch this first round pick go to the New York Jets. What do we have at 17?
Well, I'm thinking, Nick, it's the Lions. And before I go into my logic here, let's talk about their offseason, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They've had a solid offseason, I would say. I mean, for a team that kind of disappointed during the regular season. They got Juice Scruggs in a trade with the Texans. They signed Isaiah Pacheco to kind of strengthen that running back committee a little bit. They signed center Cade Mays, and they really need O line is the number one priority. They need some edge rushers, a linebacker, safety, cornerback. But the last three are kind of reaches at this point. If they're picking like 8 or 9, you would love a guy like Caleb Downs. However, that being said, that offensive line, you cannot waste the talent in that backfield. So give me Monroe Freeling out of Georgia here because they cannot waste that talent in the backfield. They cannot waste Jahmyr Gibbs like this. So they're gonna need protection. So give me Freeling here from Georgia. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that also makes a lot of sense because if there's no guys like if Fado doesn't slip in the draft, if Freeling's still there for you at 17, the Lions need to fix the offensive line because Taylor Decker's now gone too, so they need another tackle to help Jared Goff and company. They of course already also traded David Montgomery in the offseason. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense for Detroit to pick him there. If they don't take him, then you have to probably reach on a tackle at that point, potentially. So Monroe Freeland going to the Detroit at pick number 17. Pick number 18 is the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings this past offseason, just 2 big moves they made. They re-signed their linebacker Eric Wilson. The biggest one is now creating a quarterback controversy in Minnesota. They signed Kyler Murray, the former Arizona Cardinals starting quarterback. So the question is going to be, does he start or does 9 start this upcoming season in the NFL, which will be very curious storyline that comes up to the helm. The Vikings' needs are defensive line, offensive line. safety, wide receiver, and corner. With Thiemann not on the board, there's only one safety left that they can possibly take at this spot. And looking at the rest of this draft, I think they probably will go safety at this point. So I'm gonna go with Manuel McNeil Warren, the safety out of Toledo, at pick number
We got
18.
some action over here in the
Yeah,
first round.
got some action in the first round. I think we saw a Toledo cornerback not too long ago go to the Eagles. I think you get another one right here, but this time in Minnesota. I think it just makes too much sense because you got to keep in mind, Johnson, Harrison Smith, his days are pretty much almost numbered. He's 35, 36 years old. Safeties don't really play that long in the NFL, so they need to upgrade at some point or get his replacement at some point. So I think McNeil Warren is the guy that Minnesota goes with at pick number 18.
And then at 19, we got the Panthers. They signed Jalen Phillips, Devin Lloyd, Rasheed Walker, John Mechie III, and Luke Fortner. So they signed offensive line, edge rusher, wide receiver, linebacker. They need offensive line, they need safeties, they need tight ends, defensive line, and wide receivers. Which brings me to my pick. They're taking Makai Lemon out of USC.
Yeah, just it's a no-brainer. If he's there at 19, you have to take him.
This draft has worked out for a lot of teams. The only team this really hasn't worked out for yet is the Cowboys.
Yeah, yeah. And even then, it's like they got a decent player, but I feel like that's a guy that maybe you'd hope for falls into this next pick, which is pick number 20 that they have. That was,
And
of
I
course,
think this is the guy that they want here at 20.
maybe, yeah. Yeah, Makai Lemon, or who are you talking about?
No, you're taking the Cowboys, so I think there's a player here for the Cowboys. Which, if this is the case, you didn't get your guy at 12, but at 20, this is your guy.
Right, yeah. And we already spoke about what the Cowboys did. They, of course, got this pick from the Packers in the infamous Micah Parsons trade. I'll quickly recap what the Packers did before we go into the pick. They got Zaire Franklin to trade with the Colts. Javon Hargrave they signed. Re-signed Sean Ryan, and they signed corner Benjamin St-Juste. For the Cowboys, they already got a corner in this draft, that being Jermon McCoy. So they fill up one of their needs at the defensive back. And I'm trying to debate if I'm going defensive end here with them already getting Rashawn Gary and looking at the linebackers. They could maybe move just Gary back to the linebacker spot there. I think I'm going to lean towards them taking Keldrick Falk out of Auburn, the defensive end there. I think they would like to maybe prefer moving Gary to that, speed rusher on the outside and getting maybe a little bit more of a defensive edge type player and Falk here instead of maybe going with a linebacker and CJ Allen. So I'll take
that's who I had. I thought you were going to take CJ Allen.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I think Falk is a guy that could maybe go a little bit earlier in this draft too. But I think if he's still here at 20, I think the Cowboys would probably say, we should probably take this guy. So give me Keldrick Falk.
All right, that's going to lead us to pick number 21 and the Steelers. To quickly recap the Steelers, they've signed Rico Dowdle, Jaquan Brisker, Jamel Dean, Cameron Hayward, and they traded for Michael Pittman Jr., so they got their number one guy. So they got Pittman Jr. Say it again, Nick?
Who's the quarterback, though? That's the problem.
Ooh, I don't know, Nick. What
are the Steelers going to come back?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything on him yet. I think I've said my piece on Aaron Rodgers. I really think he's going to keep on playing until he can't. I think the second Matthew Stafford retires, he's going to retire. I've had this whole discussion before why I think this. But with all that being said, you're not taking a quarterback here. They're not going to take Ty Simpson.
I tried. They're
taking tackle. They're taking tackle. They're going to take Blake Miller here. It's a little bit of a reach, but the other needs we just don't need. I know you usually sometimes take best player available. No, they're not taking Ty Simpson.
This could be one of the spots for Ty Simpson. I'll say this, if the Steelers don't take Ty Simpson, then it's that scenario that I brought up earlier where a team's going to trade at the back end of the first round to get up into the first round and make a pick. The rumor I'm hearing is the Cardinals. So the Cardinals might be the team that maybe trades up to get Ty Simpson at the end of the first round. So because of that happening, Johnson, I'm probably more than likely not going to take a quarterback the rest of the draft. There's just not a spot the rest of the way. I don't think even though the Browns
No,
is
and I
one of
think
their needs.
that'd be a reach here, Ty Simpson.
Yeah,
That'd be a reach.
even though the Browns need a quarterback, I just don't think you take Ty Simpson when you have two guys you drafted last year. And the only other spot would be the Dolphins, and I think they gave Malik Willis all that money. I don't think you want to draft a quarterback when you have a lot more needs than quarterback at this point. So I think the scenario of Ty Simpson going the first round is going to happen. It's going to just be from a team trading up. So, and effectively in this draft, he won't get taken, but I think he will get taken at the first round on Thursday. We'll see if that's the case. Our next pick is the Los Angeles Chargers of pick number 22. They re-signed Khalil Mack. They brought him back. They brought back defensive tackle Tyree Tart. They signed center Tyler Biadasz, as well as signing offensive guard, your boy Cole Strange, going to the Chargers, while their team needs are O-line, edge, D-line, defensive back, and wide receiver. I'm going to go Omar Cooper Jr. I'm going to take the wide receiver out of Indiana. I think the Chargers right now, their depth is there at receiver for them, but how much longer are they going to keep this trend of McConkey and Quentin Johnston, just some of the notable names at wide receiver there? You got some flashes last season out of Oronde Gadsden at tight end, and you also have, I'm trying to think of his name, the wide receiver from Ole Miss, I believe it is, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head. Trey Harris. There's some depth at that position. I feel like they're leaning towards maybe getting rid of some of these guys sooner rather than later. More than likely, it would be Quentin Johnston, the former first-round pick. I think Omar Cooper is a very, really solid wide receiver that should go in the first round. He could go as high as number 16 to the Jets if some of the receivers are taken before that, but if he's there at 22, I think that's where he goes to Los Angeles.
All right, that brings us to pick number 23. We're in the latter third of this draft now, and this is where the Eagles are picking. Eagles, they signed and re-signed the following players: Marquise Brown, Dallas Goedert, Elijah Moore, Tyreek Woolen, Jordan Davis, and they traded for Dontavian Wicks in a trade with the Packers. They need edge rushers, offensive line, safety, wide receivers, and tight ends. With that being said, they're going to take Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, and this is going to be one of those guys, well, wow, that's a good fit, and it's the Eagles that usually get it, so
yeah,
you're going to wonder, like, how'd this guy fall here?
Yeah, they usually seem to find that. Unfortunately, that happens a lot for the Eagles. We should also point out to Johnson that the rumor of A.J. Brown getting traded is probably going to happen. Maybe not as soon as this week, but
maybe
it's going to happen
though,
before
by
June
1st.
Yeah. So the rumor is going to be New England. What's your thoughts about that?
I've been saying that since the day after the Super Bowl. Yeah. I said make A.J. Brown a Patriot. He wanted to come here 10 years ago. I know he's nearing 30 years old now, but let it happen.
Okay. All right, so that leads us then to pick number 24, which is again the Cleveland Browns. This, of course, was the Jaguars' pick from this past season, but that was, of course, what had, when the Jaguars moved up in last year's draft to get Travis Hunter Jr. The quick notes for the Jaguars in their offseason, they re-signed quarter Monteric Brown, and they signed running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. So with the Browns pick here, I had them take Carnell Tate with the number 6 overall pick. And I've heard this guy rumored to the Browns for about a couple weeks now, seeing rumors about him going to the Browns at some point, maybe in this draft. I'm going to go with Caden Proctor, the offensive tackle out of Alabama here at pick number 24. The Browns need offensive line help desperately right now. They got rid of every single offensive lineman from this past season. You have a young quarterback, potentially, if you're starting Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel, or even if you're starting Deshaun Watson, you have a guy that's been injured to all hell the last few seasons. So you need some protection on that offensive line front. And I think Caden Proctor, who was originally projected going into last season, was a top 5 pick. You get him at 24, maybe find something in him. That could be a good pick for Cleveland.
So that's your pick, Nick?
Caden Proctor, number 24. Yep.
Oh, man. I want to like that pick. I don't know how he's gonna. I mean, it's the Browns. I feel like he's a really good player. But I feel bad.
I feel bad just because of the Browns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, let's talk about the Chicago Bears, a formerly really
My
terrible
Bears.
franchise, which is now a good franchise. So maybe the Cleveland Browns can turn around because the Bears were able to. Anyway, they signed Khalif Raymond, Kobe Bryant, Devin Bush, and Dredrick Willis, and they acquired Garrett Bradbury in a trade of the Patriots. And Garrett Bradbury wasn't doing anything on my team, so I'm okay with it.
Well,
They
that's just
need
yeah.
safety,
They needed him.
offensive line, defensive line, edge rushing, and wide receiver. And it's kind of tough here because there's some really good, there's a really great linebacker I want to take, and I've been wanting to take it, but it makes no sense here. They also don't need a cornerback, so I really don't know what you do here if you're the Browns. This is kind of like they're really
Yeah,
getting screwed here.
it's a tough spot because this could, and I think this could be the spot where if I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm trying to
I
trade
would
up.
trade because
Yeah,
they're not
this is where
really.
I'm trying to trade up.
None of their guys are here, but just for the sake of the mock draft, give me Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M. Gig 'em, go Aggies, because
Okay.
that's the only real fit here.
Yeah, they do need some pass rush help, so that definitely could make the most sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I'm the Cardinals, because you gotta keep in mind going in the second round, the Cardinals are gonna try to, the Jets are gonna have the first opportunity to maybe draft a Ty Simpson. So if I'm Arizona, I'm calling Chicago immediately and try to move up to pick number 25 if this happens. So yeah, Cassius Howell though, a solid player from Texas A&M. So we'll see if he does go to Chicago at 25. Pick number 26, you have the Buffalo Bills. Their past offseason, they acquired DJ Moore in a trade with the Chicago Bears, so a big time addition to the wide receiver room. They re signed center Connor McGovern. They signed defensive end Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins. They also signed safety Chauncey Gardner Johnson. Their team needs are defensive end, offensive line, linebacker, defensive back, and wide receiver. CJ Allen's still there. Gotta be CJ Allen at this point, so I'm going to take him at pick number 26. He's just kind
And
of
I
full on.
absolutely hate
It
this.
just makes too much sense.
I know it really. Bills get a knockout pick here. This is a guy that probably could have gone in the top 15, and he falls all the way down here to 26. So it is what it is. And that leads us to pick number 27, Nick, with the San Francisco 49ers. They signed Mike Evans. Huge. They got Christian Kirk. They're really putting a lot of new wide receiver talent into that locker room.
Yeah,
They also got Dre Greenlaw, and they acquired. Excuse me, I'm going to butcher this.
I
I'm
got
just
you.
call,
You want me to do it for you?
please do it.
Osa Adigizua.
Never going to be able to say that, even though you just said it right now. So I do appreciate that.
His
So
brother
they
was a
need.
former New York Giant. That's the only reason I know
That makes a lot of sense.
name.
And when you see that name 18,000 times a Sunday, that makes sense. All right. With that being said, they need O line, edge rushing, wide receivers, kind of, defensive line, and safeties. I don't know who you really pick here, because again, you take the edge rusher here. I guess you take Caden McDonald out of Ohio State here because they do need some D line.
I
So
hate that. I hate that.
it makes a lot of sense, even
It
though it's not
does.
really
It does.
it's not really like, oh, it's a flashy pick. No, it's just a solid pick, and what he is, and he's gonna be a great player.
And you can tell why I hate it because that's one of the guys I would like the Giants maybe to take in the second round to maybe replace Dexter Lawrence at defensive interior. He's a good defensive tackle if possible, but yeah, I mean the Niners. Listen, they have a lot of strong players on the defensive front. It's the same thing as usual every single year. They've got to stay healthy. They just got to stay healthy because they've been riddled with injuries upon injuries upon injuries these last few seasons. And we'll see if maybe they get some luck this time around. To stay away from their practice facility if that's the case. Pick number 28, we have the Houston Texans. A very busy offseason for Houston. They acquired David Montgomery, the running back from the Detroit Lions. They re signed offensive tackle Trent Brown, signed offensive lineman Wyatt Teller, safety Reed Blankenship, offensive lineman, they re signed offensive lineman Ed Ingram, and they also signed offensive tackle Brain Smith. So completely retooling the offensive lineman right there are the Houston Texans. That makes sense considering the last few seasons with CJ Stroud, of course, especially what happened in the playoffs against the Patriots. Their team needs O-line, D-line, linebacker, defensive back, and edge. Uh, Looking at where the board is right now, and deciding on what they possibly will do. Hmm. There's a couple of players that I like at this spot for Houston, and I might just stay. I think I might go to the defensive end. I was thinking about maybe staying on the offensive line side because
Oh,
they could stay there. I think I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll go Caleb Banks, the defensive interior lineman out of Florida. Um, they could very, very well just go all line and keep that going. I think they've done enough in the offseason to fix that. They'll probably address it too in this draft at some point. But if you can get a defensive interior lineman like Banks at pick number 28 before the run continues, because I think there could be a run on D tackles. I think you might as well just take one if given the chance.
all right, and that's gonna bring us
The Chiefs.
back to the Chiefs, which we already went over, and they need a wide receiver, and this is a real homer pick if I do it.
Oh no, you're gonna
I
do that
don't.
to
I
yourself?
I don't think I'm gonna do it to myself. He's a fringe first round
He is
pick.
gonna go in the
Probably.
first round. I can tell you right now.
You really think he's gonna go in the first round?
He will be a first round pick.
We're talking about the same guy,
I
right?
know exactly what player you're thinking of.
Oh man, so it's
I'll give you a spoiler, Johnson. If you don't take him now, I'm taking him next pick.
well, I
He's
don't want
going
I don't want the
points.
Dolphins to have him. So
Yeah, I'm
with
sorry.
that being said, Casey Concepcion, you are a Kansas City Chief.
Yeah, I mean that's funny. KC Concepcion going to KC. I mean
Yeah.
that'd be pretty
Listen,
funny
he had a
dialogue.
hell of a year with the Aggies, and
I
he,
yeah.
I
Go
think.
ahead.
Listen, I think if he's here, pick 40, the Chiefs are definitely gonna take him. I think he's a little bit of a reach right here. Is probably I would say fair value, probably around 35 to 34. But if he's here, just take him at this point.
I have him
You could
as
reach a little
high.
bit.
I have him as high as Pittsburgh at 21 in this draft.
That would
I
be
think
that would be nuts.
I think that's where as high as he could possibly go. Maybe even to Carolina. You could think about that at Carolina. It depends on where the wide receiver run starts. Because if guys like Lemon and them are all gone by pick number 19, then you decide, all right, Omar Cooper could be there for you. You probably take him first. But if he's there at pick 21 or 22 or even 23, those three teams in a row, Pittsburgh, Chargers, Eagles, all are teams that need wide receiver right now. Concepcion will be a first round pick. And if he doesn't go to those three picks, it's going to be either the Chiefs or the Dolphins at the back end that take him. So, unfortunately for you, yeah, I mean, it's really pick your poison. Do you want the Chiefs to grab him or do you want the Dolphins to grab him at this rate?
Yeah, give him to the Chiefs. I don't want the Dolphins to have anything good. So
That's fair. That's fair. And let's speak about the Dolphins because they have another first round pick with that Jalen Waddle trade they made with the Denver Broncos. To quickly note what the Broncos did in the offseason, they got Jalen Waddle. They re signed J.K. Dobbins, Alex Singleton, and Lil Jordan Humphrey. The Dolphins, I mean, if I wasn't going to take the receiver now, I'm going to take a different receiver at this pick at pick number 30. They need one. They have to get somebody, Johnson, in this draft of receiver. I'll go with Denzel Boston out of Washington to go to pick Miami at this one.
wow, Nick, that's perfect.
Yeah. They need
'Cause you
somebody
know
there.
why? You know why that's perfect?
Why is that perfect?
That's going to lead me straight into the New England Patriots, the
Mm.
runner-up in the Super Bowl, but they're not going to be back this year.
I
Listen,
wonder why you're saying that.
they're not going to be back this year. I'll see you guys in Championship 2028.
This wouldn't have to do with a certain special occasion.
No,
going
no,
on
no,
in the
no.
Super
It's
Bowl,
got
right?
nothing going on. It's
Nothing's
nothing,
going on.
nothing.
Nothing's going on besides the Super Bowl that day, of course, for you.
Yeah. It's just only for Super Bowl, and you know.
On the Super Bowl. But tell me what
Anyway.
the Patriots did in the offseason. It was a busy
Yeah,
one.
anyway, Patriots, they had a busy offseason. They got Romeo Dobbs, and I keep on mentally saying Doobs. I know it's Dobbs, but
Yeah.
whatever. They bring back the fullback, Reggie Gillum. We got Elijah Vera Tucker, Draymond Jones, and Kevin Byard.
Oh,
But we
stealing
really-
a couple of in-division rivals. Gilligan from the
Yeah.
Bills, Tarek Tucker from the Jets.
Yeah. But you know who we really need here, Nick? And I'm
Offensive
surprised
line,
he's
probably,
still
I'm
here.
assuming, right?
No, actually, I'm going to go defensive line here.
Oh.
I'm going to take Peter Woods out of Clemson here.
Oh, I hate that pick too.
That's such a great pick.
Damn
because
it.
I'm not really in love with any of the offensive guys here, but Peter Woods is still here. Man, This is a guy that could probably
Damn it.
that could go top 20. So if he's still here, give me Peter Woods.
I hate that because that's the if out of all the defensive interior linemen, that's the one I want the Giants to get in the second round. I know I mentioned a couple of them already. If I had to rank them, Woods is the number one guy I want in the second round of the draft. If
Listen,
it's
his
not him,
combine
then it's
measurables
Maton.
weren't great, but like that's why he took a
Yeah,
hit. But
Peter
he's got raw
Woods.
talent.
Peter Woods, I think either last year or 2 years ago, was projected to be a top 5 pick. So he has the talent. The problem was last year Clemson was just god awful. Everything went wrong, and the tape looked bad because of that for a lot of these players. So that's why you see a couple of these Clemson guys at the end of the board here at the end of the first round. So it's not a bad pick. He's a solid player. It's just, things have happened the last couple of months for him. But if he's still there at 31, as much as I hate to say it, that's a solid pick. But I'm hoping he's there in the second round for the New York Giants. And then, Johnson, we round off this fourth annual mock draft with the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks. They extended Jackson Smith and Jigba. They re-signed Rashid Shaheed. They re-signed Joshua Jobe. And they signed running back Emmanuel Wilson from the Green Bay Packers. So the running back room right now is a little bit interesting because it's now without Kenneth Walker. So it's going to be Zach Charbonnet and Wilson right now at the moment. Their team needs are running back, offensive line, defensive back, edge, and wide receiver. The rumor is more than likely they're going to trade out of this pick because they only have 4 picks going into this draft, so it doesn't seem like they're going to be picking at this point. If I had a pick, and I guess based off of what I think Seattle would do maybe later in the draft, I think they're probably going to take a running back. They're going to want a running back at some point. I'm not going to do it because it's not going to go in the first round, more than likely because they're not going to be here at the first round. I'll just say at the offensive line, I'm going to take Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon, the guard. If Seattle somehow sticks the pick, I think they'll take that. But even if they don't stick the pick, someone could trade up to try to snag him because he's a guy that could go a little bit earlier. I thought about maybe taking him earlier in this draft at offensive line, but if he's still there for you at 32 and it is Seattle picking, I don't see why they wouldn't take a snap at him.
All right, Nick, that's going to conclude our draft. How do you feel?
I still don't know how I feel about the 2 Giants picks. I don't know how I feel about that still. I
think one of them is going to hit. So
I would prefer that. Here's my logical thinking. I would like them to get a combination of Styles, Downs, and one of those receivers, whether it's Tyson or Tate or Mekhi Lemon. More preferably Tyson or Tate. If they get Styles and Downs, I'm not opposed to that. I am only concerned because the way this draft went for us is that there's no receivers realistically that are going to be big time to take in the second round of the draft. Like all the receivers have gone out of the way for them at this point. So that's the only concern I have. I only took Downs because you can't pass him up at 10. He's a guy that should be going in the top 5 more than likely. But if he's there at 10 for you, you have to take him. It's best player available at that point. But I'd be okay with the draft if I was a Giants fan. I'm assuming, obviously, with your 1 pick in New England, you'd be okay with Peter Woods.
Oh, yeah. I would love Peter Woods, right? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
It'd be a home run, great pick. No question about it.
Just 1 year ago, you and I were picking in the top 5. Now you're back to picking in the 30s.
Yeah, life comes at you fast, but maybe you guys will win 8 games next year.
Maybe. But yeah, Johnson, that's gonna do it. 4 years now of us doing the this mock draft for us, and now we will see what happens this upcoming Thursday, and of course the rest of the weekend with the NFL draft. I'm sure we'll talk about what happens in the NFL draft next week here on the show, but very much looking forward to seeing what unfolds on Thursday and Friday and Saturday at the end of this week. Any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Just take us home, Nick.
All right, I'll take us home. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. This upcoming Thursday is once again the NFL draft, and a lot of storylines are going in to this NFL draft. Of course, the Las Vegas Raiders with the number 1 overall pick. Then you have the Jets, Cardinals, Titans, and Giants rounding out the top 5. couple of teams with a couple of first round picks as well. And could we see a second quarterback like Ty Simpson maybe go in the first round? I tend to think so, but with no trades in our mock draft, that's not the case this time around. But we'll see if he does go in the first round this upcoming Thursday, and we'll recap it all next week here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. For Nicholas Pavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.